thing. Hey, don't you worry about a thing. I'm just funking around for fun. What's up, people? Here I be. Happy New Year's to everybody. I'm not gonna tell y'all what I'm drinking because I'm not getting paid to push their stuff. But maybe I'll talk to them about sponsoring me, and then I could tell y'all what I'm drinking. But anyway, how's everybody doing? What's up with my YouTube people? What's up, Facebook? I know some of you guys do Facebook because y'all do a live of me. Y'all do a watch party, and I appreciate that. I really do. I really do. But I'm gonna ask y'all to do something else. Put me in both places. Let me come in stereo. Let me come into your house both ways. Let me do. You got 2 ears. You got 2 eyes. So I could do Facebook in this eye, and I could do YouTube in that eye. How about that? How about that? What's up? What's up, people? I haven't really been doing that much, but this drink is for you guys. Happy New Year. I'm gonna wait for a couple of people to get here because I'm just a little early, and it's been a rough week. That's all I'm gonna say. It's been a rough week. Did I say it's been a rough week? Yeah, it's been a rough week. So what's up, people? How y'all doing? Oh Lord, I see some people out there. Get my sippages on. Hey, how you doing? How your mama and them? Yeah, I got my silly on right now, folks. How y'all doing? I'm gonna just give people a couple minutes. I see a couple people coming up. What's up, Freight? Okay, folks, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. This is crazy. I want to say good evening before I even go off on anything. Let me just say good evening, and as always, I thank you guys for spending your Thursday nights with me. 2020 is in our rearview mirror, but we got some remnants hanging around. That is going to take us about 13 more days to get rid of. It is what it is, people. It's the democratic way. Again, thank you for spending your Thursday night with me. This is my first show of 2021. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit serious. I got to tell you, though, I really don't know how tonight's show is going to go. I don't know. Spending 12 years in D.C., I used to date a girl. I know y'all going to say, damn, who didn't he date? But I dated this girl that worked for Teddy Kennedy on the Hill. So I have that, and just that whole 12 years of being in DC, I have all kind of memories that are stirred up, and just it was kind of crazy to me. So let me not go off on a tangent. I'm gonna say thank you, welcome to the show. Thank you for spending your Thursday night with me. I really appreciate it. This is my first show of 2021, and I expected the drama yesterday. But damn, it still caught me off guard. So before I go any further, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Hank Batiste. You know my government name. I ain't going to even go there, but I'm also known as the Renaissance Man, or Rennie for short. I'm your host for tonight, and the voices in my head are pissed. They're pissed to the utmost of pissosity. My show is called I Got Something to Say, so it must be true. Let me just say this. I predicted this. So I don't know why I'm still surprised. I don't know why it caught me off guard. My Creole powers told you that this would happen. So many of you texted me, you sent me DM messages, you called me. Yeah, I was watching that foolishness. I wasn't going to answer the phone, and I wasn't really responding to stuff because I was so afraid I would miss something during this craziness as it unfolded. So yeah, I watched it as it happened. Shit, the truth be told, I saw it was going to happen way back when. I've been talking about this happening since the summer at least. So somewhere in the neighborhood of 7, 8 months, I've been talking about this happening. So I wasn't really caught off guard. I was caught off guard by, I guess, how much so soon all of this craziness that went down. That the magnitude of the crazy. This was pure, unadulterated crazy. And I'm not talking CRAZY. I'm talking CRAZEE, crazy. So I talked about this when on November the 4th, when it became apparent that despicable, delusional Donnie would not concede the election and he would not go away quietly. I knew that there would be violence. It was obvious when Mish, Lindsay, and Ted Cruz, Kevin McCarthy chose power and political ambition at any cost, at all costs, and then double down on a coup to retain the power versus the America that they claim to love. I knew this was going to happen. And still, I wasn't ready for it. It took a treasonous coup, an insurrection for Lindsey to Leach Graham to finally say, count me out. I'm out. I've had enough. As we look back, in this show, as we look back at 2020 and review, we're going to look at some of the predictions that I made and how they came true. We're also going to talk about some of the disparities in policing. We're going to talk about white privilege, and we're going to talk about my idea for police reform. So tonight's show is called, imagine this, White Privilege in Effect, Law and Order Optional. So let's omit the logic. I keep saying you expect this shit to make sense. So my phrase is omit the logic. Let's omit the logic and do this. Stacey Abrams. I can't give this woman enough love. She turned Georgia blue. Georgia's blue and the Senate has a Democratic majority. Why? What can I say about Stacey Abrams that I haven't already said? This woman turned Georgia blue for Joe Biden and has worked tirelessly with other grassroots organizations to help elect 2 Democratic senators. That's unheard of. That's monumental. That's boom. This is the difference between being called to serve and being a politician in the pure sense of the words public servant. But enough about Ms. Abrams. Let's talk about Senator-elect Raphael Warnock, Georgia's first Black senator, who just also happens to be the senior pastor at Atlanta's Ebenezer Baptist Church. Yeah, this is the same church that Martin Luther King grew up and preached at and all of that. But that takes nothing away from this momentous occasion. It's like the spirit of King's dream manifesting itself. So wrap your head around that. There's some that are going to be quick to say, since Reverend Warnock, a Black man from the projects, was elected, that racism is no more. Need I remind you of the disparity in how the Black Lives Matter protesters were treated compared to the Trump-incited terrorists? But I'll get to that later. John Ossoff also defeated incumbent David Chicken Perdue. Yeah, this is from the Perdue Chicken family, to give President Biden and Vice President Harris, Kamala Harris, a Democratic majority in the Senate. Folks, you have no idea how big this is until we start to see some of these regressive policies that occurred during the Trump Moscow Mitch 1-2 punch as they start to be rescinding and we start to get into more true progression and progressive policies. When I think about this, I think about how much diversity in just those two picks. Ossoff is the son of Jewish parents who studied and attended school abroad. Warnock was raised in housing projects in Savannah, Georgia. Warnock is also a Baptist preacher. Why these people can't have names like Smith and Jones? So I won't have problems. I'm just messing with you. With a name like Baptiste, I get every abomination pronunciation of my name. So I apologize to Reverend Warnock and John Ossoff for mispronouncing your name from time to time. I'm really excited about what's happening, and then I'm perturbed about what happened yesterday. So I've got this flurry of emotions. So stick with me, people. As I was saying, Ossoff is the son of Jewish parents. He attended school and college abroad. Warnock, on the other hand, was raised in the housing projects in Savannah, Georgia. Imagine that. Warnock is a Baptist minister, a pastor. Ossoff worked, ironically, with John Lewis prior to his death. Both will bring diversity that you can't script this type of diversity in their backgrounds and a unique perspective that should make the Democratic Party so much richer and add so much depth to this old school Schumer and McConnell old guard fight that's had the Senate in the stranglehold for approximately the last decade. Now we should see some traction. We should see some traction on matters of middle and lower class. Issues like affordable health care, livable wages, logistically delivering the COVID vaccine to those who are usually at the end of the line. When we start to talk about government programs and things to the masses. In the aforementioned political environment, we might even see the tax breaks for the wealthiest 1% of Americans rescinded. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's move on. I predicted, yes, I did, that Despicable was going to incite domestic terrorists. I did. Numbnut said, and we're going to the Capitol. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I'll go with you. We have to be strong. And I can't do an impersonation of him because I have a spine. So that's my impersonation. Even though I predicted a backlash from the so-called patriots, as far as last summer, I had no idea it would be to this magnitude and unfold the way it unfolded. Yesterday at 10:14 a.m., I posted 5 bullet points, numbered bullet points on my Facebook page. The 5 bullet points was, number 1, Georgia in the Senate would be blue. They hadn't called the race for Ossoff yet. Number 2, there would be elected congressional conspirators, or I should call them co-conspirators, who would subvert the Constitution by challenging the electoral votes and ignoring the will of the people. Number 3, Despicable Donnie would incite violence. 10:14 in the morning, mind you. Number 4, there would be a civil war in the GOP. 10:14 yesterday morning. And number 5, I gave you some insight as to who the head of the Proud Boys was. This convicted felon by the name of Enrique Tarrio. Ontario. Little did I know, little did I know at the time that these things would come to fruition by day's end. Little did I know that it would result in a treasonous act of insurrection and a final coup attempt, culminating in the U.S. Capitol and taking the lives of 4 people in its midst. As I watched this madness unfold, I was amazed that the Capitol Hill police did not draw their weapons. I was flabbergasted by 3 Secret Service holding terrorists at bay through the doors and windows, while Capitol Hill police stood idly by with no weapon in hand. I was amazed that these 3 Secret Service agents would hold these terrorists at bay until members of Congress could be escorted to a safe place, a safe location. Then I was appalled by the terrorists scaling the windows, scaling the walls and breaking out windows, and a number of terrorists occupying the balconies, the steps, the landing, and the courtyard of the U.S. Capitol as law enforcement sat on their hands. Like so many of you, I know I wasn't the only one. I was infuriated when I remember how Black Lives Matter protesters were treated and repelled by an overwhelming police force, an overwhelming police presence. In stark contrast, when it came to Trump's terrorists, law enforcement was overwhelmed. Fuck out of here. Yeah, I cuss. I can't help it. I'm a true American. So those are exclamation points. Most of all, I was pissed to the utmost of pissosity when I saw white privilege in all of its glory flaunted as no police feared for their safety. No police used deadly force. Then it dawned on me how easy police reform would be. So here's my suggestion. Here's my solution for police reform. The solution for police reform is simple. And I'm going to talk to all my law enforcement people now. Police officers, when you encounter a Black man, behave the same way the Capitol Hill police, the DC Metro Police, the FBI, and the National Guard behaved yesterday to an enemy, domestic terrorist combatants who threw flashbang grenades, who threw rocks, who pulled you into the crowd and beat the snot out of you. But not one of you feared so much for your lives that you use deadly force. So treat us the same way you treated them last night. And then we could stop having this I can't breathe. Then we could stop having our sons and daughters. Then the first conversation that we have with our sons and our daughters before they leave the house, before they get their first driver's license, would not be how to act when you're pulled over by the police. Keep your hands in plain sight. Do not be argumentative. Announce what you're going to do and don't make any sudden moves. Treat us the same way you treated those combative Trump's terrorists last night. And there will be no more accidentals shooting anybody in the back. Even after the curfew, these people stood around. They had the audacity to brag These terrorists, these enemy combatants had the audacity to brag to law enforcement and the media. Y'all didn't take it back. We gave it to you. Had that been me, 6 feet tall, 200, oh man, look, my kids would already be planning my funeral. So police reform is simple. When you encounter a black man, treat him with the same respect, give him the same. Let me move on. Our congressional conspirators. Ted Cruz, Kevin McCartney, Lindsey Graham, and about 123, 125 others were poised to subvert the Constitution of the United States in grand fashion, to give the election to despicable, delusional Trump-Thinskin. Ironically, the conspirators tried to steal the election with the lie that 8 million Americans, 306 delegates, stole said election from narcissistic, delusional Donnie. I would say fuck out of here again, but you get the picture. Since the day that the 50 states and the District of Columbia certified the electoral delegates, every news station has been explaining this protocol, this ceremonial procedure of the vice president. Vice President Pence's only job was to go to the U.S. Capitol, call state by state, and take a tally of how their delegates voted. We already knew the outcome. This was just a procedure thing. This is pomp and circumstance. It didn't mean that anything was going to change. But we all knew that in true delusional fashion, the despicable orange one was planning for his congressional co-conspirators to hijack the proceedings and somehow steal the election. Even though the conspirators knew they didn't have a snowball's chance in hell, they knew they didn't have enough votes to pull off this coup, they still got up and tried to throw a Hail Mary. That's like trying to throw a Hail Mary with no time left on the clock. And the opposing team has already taken the game ball and is on the bus going home. It was ridiculous, people. Why would these people, these so-called career politicians, put their careers on the line for Trump? Ask yourself, what was in it for them? Power. Power. Pure, unadulterated power. Pure, intoxicating power of leading a cult-like following of minions who would do any and everything that their delusional, egotistical, fearless leader said do. Power. Ironically, Ted Cruz was the original whipping boy for Trump. He was the person that Trump picked on the most. And now, after he took all of that ridicule for all of those years, he became one of his closest allies. That's like getting beat up by the bully. And you say, well, now I'm just going to just give him my lunch money before he even asks for it. After all of this, Ted wants so badly to be president and inherit those minions, that he refused to back off and withdraw his argument even after the failed coup attempt in the siege on the Capitol. What we saw was what I predicted: the civil war in the GOP. My final word on a terrorist coup is this. This coup attempt was mislabeled by the media. They downplayed it into by calling it an insurrection. Why did they do that? Because they don't want to piss off these crazy people that are willing to do anything. They don't want to piss off these people that walk the street with AR-15s and shotguns and so forth and so on. So they downplay it. That does nothing for me. That does nothing for your safety. What it does is it emboldens them so the next time they're even more arrogant. They're even more outlandish. Then their cowardly leader said, "Go home. We are so proud of you. You're special people." What kind of bullshit is that? That's like screaming fire in a crowded theater after you bolt the doors and watch people scramble and trample each other. Yesterday, time and time again, we saw that some people will do anything to have power. Time and time again, we've heard this cliche. We've heard that absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yesterday, we saw absolute power come to a head and explode in a civil war of the GOP wannabes. Even before this failed coup attempt, Mitch had already said that it was time to turn the page on what was Donald J. Trump. He had already talked about the GOP being something and so forth and so on. Maybe he realized that he was no longer going to be in charge. I don't know. But it was Mitch who enabled this man. It was Mitch who protected him time and time again. Mitch was rallying the troops by saying that it's time for the GOP to get off Despicable Donnie's train. Some of the GOP tried to capture delusional Donnie's minions by serving up their own Kool-Aid. Ted Cruz, Hawley, McCarthy. Some of Donnie's loyalists jumped off when they realized that, like Donnie, their political careers were headed to Jonestown and political suicide. When Mitch realized that he would no longer be running the Senate, he did an about face. He didn't get a conscience all of a sudden. He's still the same person. It was Mitch who refused to call witnesses when the House impeached Trump. It was Mitch who allowed Donnie to go off the rails with the whole Russia thing over our own intelligence community. By protecting Trump, Mitch insulated himself and garnered power beyond his wildest dreams. In short, it was Mitch who really created this Dracula-like Trump, who bit and infected poor and uneducated white people and turned them into his creatures of fright, his creatures of fight, his creatures of the night, the creatures that would do his bidding, whatever it was. When the Senate resumed after these conspiracies had been dispelled from the halls of Congress, some co-conspirators had a change of heart. Of all of those co-conspirators who saw the light, who came into the light, most notable was Lindsey DeLeese Graham. Remember, 2 weeks ago, it was Lindsey who said any Republican who doesn't get off his ass to support Trump was not a true patriot. He was a traitor. He said some more ridiculous nonsense. After this failed coup attempt, it was the same Lindsey Graham who stood up and said, and I quote, "President Trump and I have had a great run, but I've had enough. I'm out," unquote. So it took all of this. Maybe it was the ghost of John McCain tapping him on his behind. We'll stop, people. We'll stop. As I said before, despite being Trump's whipping boy, it was Ted Cruz who wanted a special panel name so that he could argue why Congress should select a president, not the people and not the Electoral College. Cruz wants so badly to inherit the Trumpies that he defended delusional Donnie's lies to the bitter end, even after a failed coup attempt. Now, what got me? I went to Fox News, and Fox News had abandoned Trump. I went to MSNBC. I went to CNN, and then I caught Rick Sanitarium. I know his real name, but I'm saying the dude's crazy. He needs to be his ass in the sanitarium. He tried to defend the terrorists on CNN. See, Rick wants to be president too. See, he's no longer in Congress, but he still has political aspirations. So he would love to inherit this following of hate mongers as well. Rick said, like he knew them, like they all went to school together, they, the terrorists, quote, were angry because they felt like they were losing their country. Really? Their country? I fight back pain, neck pain, and all kind of knee and because I chose to serve. I was forced into early retirement because of injuries sustained while I was in the United States Marine Corps. I'm one of those veterans living on 1/6 of what I used to earn. I'm one of those veterans who the draft dodging, despicable, delusional Donnie calls a sucker because I believed in God, country, and Corps. But I digress. You see, it was my ancestors that built the U.S. Capitol. So it's more my house than it is those knuckleheads. This is just as much my country as anyone else calling themselves an American or a patriot. Period. Anyone who compares last night's Capitol siege to Black Lives Matter protests, anyone who was appalled by Colin Kaepernick taking a knee to protest police violence or refused to watch basketball because last season the NBA was honoring Black Lives Matter with victims and phrases. Anyone who refuses or makes excuses for those terrorists who took over the U.S. Capitol is not a true patriot. Period. End of story. My Creole powers. Let's do this and get the hell out of here. But I'm going to take me a sip first. No, I ain't telling you. Y'all want a sip? Man, that's good. Smooth. My Creole Powers. Last year I made some predictions. And right now I'm going to tell you about some of them and how they came to fruition. I haven't been wrong yet, people. A little piece of paper on the wall said Masters in Public Administration, Public Policy. So sometimes I know what the hell I'm talking about. Then got another little piece of paper that said radiology and another little piece of paper that said healthcare administrator, blah, 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 blah. I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. I've been doing this since I was 16 years old. Anybody from the city of New Orleans, and I said this before, I got into this when we had our first black mayor, a man by the name of Ernest Dutch Morial. No brainer. I said delusional Donnie will continue to be despicable and bitter to the end. Now, after he says that after last night there will be a peaceful transition of power, those closest to him say he's still shut off in a room, isolated by himself, and throwing temper tantrums and shit at the wall, pissing on the floors. You know what I say he's doing, but that's beside the point. He's going to be bitter until the end. I heard another historian talk about the path of Hitler and talked about how Hitler served a year and a half before he came back and did some things. So we have to watch this idiot. We have to make sure that there is nothing for him to come back for. We have to do something to curb this disease called hate. Because remember, and I'm going to digress for just a minute, I already had a show written, and I was planning on focusing on COVID-19, because on Tuesday, 3,775 people died. That was the deadliest day thus far. Over 131,000 people were hospitalized, and only close to 3 million vaccinations had been issued, not the 100 million that they said would. So I was planning on talking about my healthcare side, not my policy side. And then all of this madness unfolded. So I had to change the whole trajectory and direction of my show. So I said despicable. This is my second sip. That is so good, people. I said despicable Donnie will not attend Joe Biden's inauguration. There's no way this man. Now I said this back in November, but I'm gonna say it. It's amazing how all this stuff has come to fruition. There's no way he's gonna want to face those people when he can't even face the people in his cabinet who are walking out on him now, and others are begging them to stay because they don't want to have these gaps. They want to have someone that can transfer not power, but just the day-to-day operations of what's happening and how we do things in the White House. Okay? Instead, now remember, Ivanka was one of those who tweeted calling these terrorist patriots, and then she took it down. Or maybe they took it down for her. I don't know. I expect that his children are going to be on a plane headed out of this country to some country that we have non-extradition treaties with. My third prediction, remember number 2. You heard it here first. Mark my word. Number 3, There will continue to be power struggles in both parties, not just the Republican Party, but in both parties. Because I was sadly disappointed when they gave the gavel back to Nancy. I think she's inept, and I think it's time to move on. Okay. So there's going to be struggles in both. These COVID vaccines, remember, one of them has to be kept at sub-zero temperature. If these things rolled out and they've not been dispensed yet, what's going to happen to them? How long, what's the shelf life on them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not going to even get into that. I'm going to leave that one alone. I said this before, and this one has already come true. Number 5, I said Nancy would fight tooth and nail to hold on to the gavel as another power structure, a struggle weakens the Democrats. And at some point in this first 10 months, Joe is going to have to make a grand appearance to tell them to get their head out their butts. Number 6, Despicable Donnie will continue. Why? He wants the money. He will continue to hold rallies with his Terminator mantra, I will be back. And his minions will continue to give them his South Shall Rise Again milk money. Did you see the idiot running through there with the Confederate flag? Okay. I made these last year, November. And this is how they've already come true. Despicable Donnie will continue to strong arm the Republican candidates and pardon everybody associate under the sun, while Mish vies for control and how to reclaim the Republicans. Again, I made these last year, back in November. The Republicans, on the other hand, were slowly, somehow, the Kevin McCarthy's, the Ted Cruz's, these guys are going to try to somehow integrate all of these numbers. They don't care if they're hate mongers. They care that these are votes, and that's the way they see it. They're going to try their best to integrate the Trumpies and the Trumpettes and take control of the GOP while Trump fights to hold on. We're going to look for a neophyte fight within the Democratic Party. The neophytes and the so-called progressives against Nancy. Because if I'm tired of her and I don't have to work with her, I know how they feel. Again, I made these last year. Fox News is going to try to exploit what's happening in the Democratic Party, and they're going to try to play down what's happening in the Republican Party while that vacuum is created. And who assumes all of that in the vacuum in the Republican Party? Remember, you heard it here first. So when Don Lemon says it, when Rachel Maddow said, when Chris Cuomo said, say, yo, my man Hank said it first. He said it back in November. He said it was going to happen before it happened on January 6th, 2021. That's all I got for you tonight. If you haven't already, I'm asking you to go to my YouTube channel, sign up, hit subscribe, getting these numbers up. Hey, people, how y'all doing? Ring the bell. It's going to let you know when I'm on YouTube. It's going to let you know when I get ready to do this. It's going to let you know when I do something on YouTube that I don't do on Facebook. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for sharing your Thursday nights with me. I appreciate your patience with me. This has me more worked up than you could imagine. I don't know why I take it personal. No, I do know. It is my belief, it is my fate, it is my legacy to leave this world in a better shape than I found it. When I'm dead and gone, when I'm dust of the earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, I want my grandkids to have something and say, well, my big papa, my grandfather did all that he could humanly do to establish dialogue. You don't have to agree with me, people. Do your own, do your own, do your own research. Come back to me. I love it when you guys hit me with questions. I love it when you DM me. I love it when you hit me with text messages and all of this other stuff. See you next week. Same Baptiste time, same Baptiste place. Is always important. Love, peace, hair grease. I'm out of here, folks. This one's for you. Good night. Daylight come and me wanna go home. Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me. I was flat as hell.